So welcome all to this new perspective series on the four powers of the Mother, Part 2, Mahakali's Divine Warrior Force and Intensity. New Perspectives, as you know, is being sponsored by the LaGrasse Center here in Fountain Inn, South Carolina, as well as our university and the Sri Aurobindo Integral Life Center in Surat, India. And we are very honored to invite back to New Perspectives today the co-founder and CEO of iThrive, Mugdha Pradham. So we welcome you, Mugdha, and we thank you for joining us again at this time. So before we get started, I'd like to make just a couple of announcements. We are excited to invite you all to our annual Sri Aurobindo Integral Yoga Retreat this summer. We'll be coming together for 4 days starting July 8th through the 12th in Greenville, South Carolina, which is just 15 or 20 minutes away from our center here in Fountain Inn. And our keynote speaker will be Shardalu Ranade, who many of you know and probably also follow on YouTube, as well as several other very distinguished speakers who will be joining us. So the Sri Aurobindo Integral Yoga Retreat has been hosted here in the Greenville area for over 20 years. And each year we have just an amazing number of Integral Yoga followers who come together from really around the world, as well as from here in the US. Last year we had nearly 100 gathered for this amazing occasion. So we'll posting in the chat box information regarding this Integral Yoga Retreat, and we really hope that we'll be able to see you this summer. The second announcement is a special hybrid event hosted by Dr. Laud's Ayurvedic Institute in nearby Asheville, North Carolina. Next Sunday, April 12th, Vladimir will address the Asheville community on the topic of the Gita. His talk is The Gita Lab, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Times. So if you're in the North Carolina or South Carolina area, please join us at the Ayurvedic Institute from 9:30 to 11 a.m. And be sure to come early for chai and coffee at 9 to meet the local Asheville community members. Otherwise, you are more than welcome to join us online. And again, information for this event is being posted in the chat box. And so now it is my great privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Mugdha Pradham. In 2019, Mugdha founded iThrive, which is a revolutionary health and wellness startup that focuses on reversing chronic health conditions and lifestyle diseases through functional nutrition. Herself embodying the Mahakali force of personal and professional transformation, Mugdha has graciously agreed to share with us her own exploration of how Mahakali's fierce intensity, grounded in the eternal calm of Maheshwari, can become a living force within the body, simplifying and accelerating the sadhana of personal transformation. So before handing it over to Mugdha, we'd like to show just a short video on iThrive's functional approach to health and healing. Vladimir?
Diabetes, heart diseases, autoimmune disorders, obesity, and mental health issues have shown an alarming trend across all ages. We need to explore an innovative and alternative approach to healthcare by finding the root cause and improving overall well-being. We are iThrive, an alternative healthcare platform that is changing the face of modern healing and nutrition. We have successfully treated over 6,000 clients with around 174 types of chronic diseases. Traditional medicine often treats symptoms, but we address the root cause of these ailments. We are empowering people worldwide by teaching certified courses on functional nutrition, spreading awareness about transformative power of this vital knowledge. iThrive has also created the cleanest and most effective supplements that fill up the blanks in our systems. With our groundbreaking achievements and meteoric growth, iThrive has become an industry leader, scaling new heights of recognition and success. It is our mission to successfully heal every person needing help and approaching us. Discover the power of functional nutrition with iThrive, Healing and Beyond.
Great. And Mugdha, with that brief introduction, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Radhe. It's such a pleasure to come back here and share whatever chaotic paths and journeys I've taken towards perfection. So I'm just sharing my screen, and talking about Mahakali is always overwhelming for me because her energy itself is. Give me a minute. Yeah. Just let me know if there's a gray box over. It should have gone by now.
Yep, it's gone.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, well, thanks for inviting me. I think of the four powers of the mother. Mahakali was the one that I resonated the most. As soon as I'd read the mother book, I was like, oh, this is an energy I really identify with. And to me, over the last 3 years, it's really been about finding ways to surrender to a force so that the transformation can continue through me. And that's all I'm going to share today. So for me, it's been a very personal journey with Mahakali. And what I often notice is people often just study her, or they read about her, or they venerate her, or they put her on a pedestal, or um, they talk about her as if she's a philosophical subject trying to understand this energy. But to me, the experience with her has been so personal, like the transformation itself, that I just want to bring that perspective today, that this is the force she is, right? Like she's fire, and she's darkness, and she's gold, and she's thunder, and she's blood and skulls, and everything all just put together. And to me, every time she's shown up, it's so hard to describe a force like hers without the overwhelm, but I'm going to do it. So, what she has been and will be for me is not just rage. Okay, that's the form that most people see, and I think we study her from a distance. We talk about her philosophically, or we construct temples for her because we are really terrified of the force that she brings. But to me, she's also always been there to protect um, that kind of mama bear kind of love, like the grizzly bear kind of love, that is so overpowering and it will get rid of anything that's going to harm you. So that's the kind of energy that she brings. So the part that people often see is just this first one, right? Like the strike, or the destruction, or the clearing up, or the absolute devastating debris that people think she leaves behind. But usually, the surgical strike that she carries through, like when she finds an imperfection, or when you surrender an imperfection to the mother, or when you ask the mother for help, and you ask, or you invite the mother to kind of just take over your life, and ask her to clear up something that's in your way, she just comes in the form of Mahakali. At least that's been my personal experience. And there is a precision strike. It's literally like the sword being used to chop off an asura's head. And it might look like rage to the outsider, it might look like chaos to the outsider, because what they are seeing is just something being chopped off and like things falling apart. But to me, all of that clearing up that she's done has always been extremely precise. And people, like, even I used to be very scared of her power early on, because I used to think, what if everything is destroyed? Because fire is like that, right? Fire is indiscriminate. But what I have learned over the last 2 years of letting her energy just come through me and into my reality is she just strikes the falsehoods or the untruths, and she's really, really clean and surgical with her strikes. The other aspect of that clearing up that she brings and she has brought to my life and to the company, and which I will talk about also, like how exactly. I mean, it's not just like a philosophical experience. Every time she came in and she cleared up, and every destruction that happened actually opened up space for something new to birth. So whether it was having to fire people and let go of them, and in that, like in the method that was used, what came later was something cleaner and far more powerful and far more fueled by the energy of the divine itself. And she is very, very fast. Like, she won't sit in, like when I say she won't sit in Malaran, of course the action has happened through me, but the once the decision is made to clear something out, there's like this exceptional speed that is applied. It's not like a slow ripping of the band-aid, it's just cutting off what doesn't belong there. No hesitation. There's never an apologetic way of doing it, that I'm so sorry and this has to be done. It's a fully empowered way of really acting like a warrior. So it's so strange that I speak of a warrior force, and I am overwhelmed by tears when I talk about it. But every time, and this actually amplified more after I started reading The Divine Materialism. This is a book by Satprem. He's recording his talks with the mother. So it's basically a book about like the body itself, and how to finally use the body as an instrument of the transformation. So the more I started reading that book, it started with the Mind of Cells actually. So I was reading the Mind of Cells, and the experience of Mahakali's force flowing through me just intensified. This was 2 years ago, and since then it's been a constant occurrence. So what happens is, and I think this is both the flow of Mahakali, and now it's combined more with the flow of Mahasaraswati also. So Mahasaraswati is all about clearing out imperfections, finding flaws, and making things perfect. And while her methods are slower and more exacting, in my own experience, I have felt that when Mahasaraswati finds something that is imperfect, because I'm so open to Mahakali's energy, Mahakali just comes in, and then like a massive uh, force kind of arises, and it just clears thing up. So every time I found a falsehood within me, within either my mind or the mental, or within my own vital and whatever constructs and conditioning and belief systems I might have had, which could have come from like the past, or from even from genetics, or even from the family system. Every time I find something within me that is undivine, or that doesn't really match the soul values that mother has left for us, her force comes and starts clearing things up. And every single time that force comes, especially within the company, it's been like a clear up. So I think before this work began with her, we were a team of 60 people. And in terms of revenue, we had flatlined. In terms of operational expenses, like we were in losses, massive losses. She came in, and it's been a 2 year journey, of course, but what happened with like this year's financial closing, this is like numbers. It's on the revenue and on the balance sheet and everywhere. The profits have gone up. The team has shrunk to 42 people. It's a cleaner team. It's a smaller team. It's a fully focused team. We've managed to like erase losses from the books, and we are actually profitable now. And it happened through destruction. It happened through clearing up, what no longer was serving, what wasn't matching the uh, the direction the company was supposed to be taken. So she is incredible in terms of how she comes up and just cleans things that are not true, and that could be getting in the way of growth and evolution. So this, I actually made a list of my own things of why I was so afraid to let her come in earlier, and why I often find people also really terrified of Mahakali's force and her energy. And it's not that people don't believe in her force. Like there are enough narratives and there are enough stories in our mythology, even in Sri Aurobindo's writings, even in the mother's description. It's not like we don't know what she is or we don't believe in her force, but most people are really afraid of her. And I personally, this is my list of what I was afraid of. I was very, very afraid of being judged, right? Like being someone who chose to voluntarily break down and destroy things that were not working. I was very afraid of what I'd be called, what I'd be labeled, how I'd be judged. People won't like me anymore. People will call me crazy because we have this um, societal narrative of how a woman is supposed to be very gentle and pleasing and kind and nurturing versus the raging banshee who everyone calls crazy. But sometimes when her force descends, I have become a raging banshee and I have acted like what would seem like an absolute lunatic to the outside world. So I was afraid of looking like that. Of course, being afraid of dislike, being afraid of being rejected, because what if someone doesn't like me in this form? Because I had huge people pleasing patterns all through my life. And this, like just being like no one will really care for me, of being left alone, the fear of just destroying everything, especially in context of the company, I would often be very worried that if I let this energy flow through and start eliminating the things that no longer serve, that are now so painfully apparent, in that, what else would I be destroying? Would I be destroying the culture? Would I be destroying the bonds people have internally? Would I be destroying the structure that a certain person had set up? And would that then, become an implosive setup? And would the company implode on itself? And would the company really die? So I really was very afraid of destroying everything with that force, because the force is intense. It's like a it's uncontrollable sometimes. It used to be. And of course, my own personal fear of losing what felt like love, because again, childhood trauma, whatever belief systems, I had ended up considering a lot of people in the team as my friends. And then I kept non-performing team members on because I thought of them as friends. And the fear was that if I let these people go, then I'm going to lose love, because I was only in this idea of love can come from another human. I had not yet connected fully with the mother, where she was like the whole source of love. And my cost of holding back, like not letting her energy flow through me, right? Like this destructive surgical force. The cost of that was, it actually cost I Thrive money on in the books. It's so evident. Um, it cost me my sanity to a degree, because I wasn't really having a pleasant experience of life in terms of just having the right kind of relationships. And that behavior was protecting those relationships at the cost of the vision of the company, or at the cost of the mission of the company. And I was choosing that comfortable relationship over the truth. The truth was people were not performing, they were not contributing to the vision. And I would actually resist and hold off the force, so that I didn't want to so that I wouldn't have to speak the truth and take the right action. Okay. So it was literally fear that was wearing this polite face of kindness and sweet and nice and a really funny person. But as I let her force start flowing in through me, one thing that I really understood again through all the sessions with Nilesh and learning more and more of integral yoga was that like a swift, clean ending was way more kinder than this slow death that the company was going through and I was going through and that relationship was going through. And honestly, looking back now, it feels like the most loving thing that could have happened for all of us involved. Even though some people's perspective on it still might not be the same that I have, but it was the most loving thing I could do for myself. It was the most loving thing I could do for the company. And at some point, the other people would realize it is the most loving thing that could happen for them as well. So that's what like a clean surgical strike does. And I was having this conversation with someone else about how her force feels, and I thought I should just put this in my presentation as well. I don't I don't generate her force, or the energy of Mahakali is not something I switch on and off inside of me. It's more like it's the mother who decides that it is time for her to kind of enter my reality as Mahakali's form. And there I can actually feel it coming. I can feel that force, I can feel that energy coming. And of course, I've surrendered more to it now, so I'm not afraid of it, and I let it come and do the work it has to do. But it begins to enter, and it's not even rage. Like people, it looks like rage externally, but it's this mass. It's like a waterfall descending on your head, and it just starts moving through my body. So I can feel this energy just coming through, and the thing that it is directed towards. So the mind actually starts creating visual maps of what this energy is directed towards and what it has to address. So when that begins happening, I let my body do what it can to receive that energy. And I think this is where the Adhara becomes really important. And both of them have often spoken about why the Adhara or a strong instrument is so important. Because had my body not been able to adapt to this force, I would have really crashed, collapsed, and gotten depleted. Okay, so what happens is my body starts adapting, the spine becomes straighter, and it just feels more taut. Like it actually starts becoming, it starts holding a kind of tension that's going to allow this force to move through it. My posture shifts. It's very, very evident for the people who are close to me now. So they see that happening. And if they are not the perpetrators, or if they're not the ones whom it's going to be directed towards, they kind of know to keep away. So Avinash, who I'm sure is attending this right now, who is the co-founder of I Thrive, um, he sees this happening, my breath deepens. So because that kind of force and that kind of energy and the action that has to be taken and the words that have to be said requires energy, and that energy is going to come from a cellular level. So all of the things that we know about biochemistry, that glucose goes into the Krebs cycle and then the body produces ATP, it requires oxygen. And to produce that energy, the breath has to be taken for that ATP production to happen. So for me, because I also know about physical health, sometimes I'm just able to kind of go through the experience of a spiritual force moving in and then analyze it from a biochemistry perspective. It's a very funny thing that happens to witness my body figuring out what to do and then to also know what's happening at a biochemistry level. But the breath deepens because the body needs more oxygen. Now, earlier, when this kind of force used to flow, I would kind of get scared because, again, like the implication of what this means, and something's going to be destroyed, someone's going to get hurt, some relationship is going to get cut off. So, all of those fears would make me contract. That is the one practice that I continue to do, to not contract, to just let myself expand so that the force can move through. And the third thing is, I have been fascinated with something called as the nervous system. Like human beings, we have like this entire hardware inside our body, which is from the brain to the spine to the entire peripheral organs. It's like a communication highway, and it has three different modes. It has its activated mode, which is the fight or flight stage, and then it has its ventral vagal, which is like the communicative stage, and then it has its dorsal vagal stage, which is the relaxation and shutdown stage. So I think the mother sent me the learning about the nervous system again a year and a half, 2 years ago, so that I could learn about this hardware really well, to allow the force to flow through it so that the body would not get depleted. Because my own past experience in life, when I was younger and I was a rebel and I tried to rebel against patriarchy and I would get angry, that anger would often deplete me. Like I would feel exhausted and tired, not knowing what was going on in the body. But now being able to integrate and embody her force with an understanding of the hardware that we own, like we are given as trustees, right? Like each of us have been given a body to transform and to let the mother's force flow through it and to just divinize, to use this adhara knowing exactly how different parts of it operate. So I let the nervous system move into what is called as the sympathetic state, which is your fight or flight. So all the energy she brings or all the force she brings needs to move through. And uh, to make sure that I'm not consumed by it, right? So to be in that witness poise and to know that this energy has to be sent outwards and not taken inwards, because then it'll start destroying the body itself, unless there is like a physical cleansing that has to happen. So being able to move into the sympathetic nervous state and then come back into what's called as the ventral vagal, that is the practice that I really had to master in the last 1 year. So I can literally explode with her force and then in a minute come back to calm, which looks very strange to the world outside, but it's the key to embodying her force and to clearing up a lot of things in life. And the last and the most important for me has been to know that she actually comes with divine sanction. She, like, the worst thing would be to kind of invite her or invoke her when the ego needs something, or when the ego needs to be put on a pedestal, or when the assertion or the aggression or the destruction is coming from an egocentric place instead of uh, from a sanction by the mother herself, where the mother is like, okay, this needs to be cleared up. And how do I really keep my how do I put it, my line of sight on where this force is moving into is the kind of outcome it's going to create. So the focus is on the outcome. It's not about me feeling good or me scaring people into submission. It is about ensuring that whatever is needed to happen for I Thrive, or whatever is needed to happen with the personal Adhara cleansing, that is going to happen with her force coming in. So the entire method of embodying her, I think this is where the energy of Maheshwari also comes, that the wisdom of knowing that Mahakali is not to be used as a bad word to use because she'll never let you use her, but Mahakali is not to be directed towards small drama. She's to be used only for divine purpose, or she's only to be direct, like she will only come into you when something divine has to materialize. That wisdom is really the Maheshwari calm that often precedes and then comes back after the storm. So for me personally, this becoming the vessel, like becoming the perfect vessel, nowhere have I achieved that. But the process of becoming the vessel for her energy, because see, the work I have been given to do currently is working on people's physical health. And most people are really physically sick because of a very high degree of tamas and inertia. And to get people to move out of tamas, to get people to move out of inertia, to even get the team to kind of stay in their dynamic state of doing the right things, it requires a lot of movement of power. And I think that's why the mother's chosen Mahakali to be my primary guide for now. So to become a vessel for her whenever needed in running this business and making things grow, for me, the clearing of whatever was obstructing her way was the sadhana. So the people pleasing pattern was the first thing that had to go. Even now, sometimes it shows up, but at a very, very small scale. Releasing the fear of being judged or disliked, that was a big one for me. And then what I spoke of, like training the breath and the nervous system to go into activation and to come out of activation, that was something that I learned over the last year and a half, especially after I went for a month-long breathwork teachers training program. And then completely surrendering and learning to trust the force over the fear that the ego has, right? ego keeps bringing this caution into the equation that, but what if everything gets destroyed? Because for the ego, the current structure and the reality you're occupying is its anchor. So my name and my identity and my label and my title is its anchor. So for the ego, sometimes that becomes terrifying to think that all of these structures would go, and then what would it be anchored around? So to learn and to teach the ego that the force is the one that's even created this current ego formation. And if it has to collapse or if it has to go, a new one would come. And like we are really immortal beings. Like even if it means life collapses, I'll still come back, right? So teaching the ego that and learning to trust the force was like is something that I'm really practicing now. Becoming unshakable. Okay, so because when the force comes, it comes with so much energy that literally if you don't have mastery over the nervous system, you'll start shaking, like the hand shake, the voice shakes. um, you'll start trembling, you'll start shaking with that anger. So becoming very very stable and very very calm, and again that's where I think Maheshwari's strength comes, and she just grounds it all. So the vessel, like me, I don't generate the force, I just get out of my own way and I let the force take over. And I'm sharing this from a first person perspective because to me her flow is very very personal as an experience. um, and like if it can happen with me, it can happen to anyone. And this is the road I took to kind of partner with her and collaborate with her, so that together, human and over mental, we can do good things. So that's why I'm sharing it from a first person perspective. Now, the crucible of all of my integral yoga learnings and evolution really happens through the company, because I don't have friends, I don't have anything outside of the company. So the mother has chosen this as the crucible. It is also her instrument. I Thrive is the mother's instrument to create and like to get her agenda going. So when it came to letting go of key team members, right? Like their non was protected by my friendship. Like I got in the way of something that the mother's design that the mother had designed, and I was my ego or my vital attachments to people was getting in the way of that. So at some point, the force kind of moved. The strike was made. There's a new team and a new orientation, and it's taking the company ahead. Even in terms of finances, 2024, 25 was a really, like 24 was a really bad year. We sunk into debt. What was real was not really apparent to me. I was living in this obscured world of just choosing light and love and not really looking at the hard numbers. But again, because it's the mother's instrument, the force moved and she took full charge. And now, and I had a big block around like looking at finances. So eventually, when she took charge, I am now able to look at all of that data, look at all of those numbers, not from a place of panic and fear, but from clarity. And there's a strength that is coming. Again, this is where I see Mahalakshmi's energy flow, harmony comes in, beauty comes in. Mahasaraswati comes in, like she's just making sure every little tiny number, every decimal point is perfect. And, we are navigating I Thrive out of it. And the entire thing about I Thrive is it's designed as an instrument that is transforming the universal. So what we have also seen with people when we work with their physical bodies, once they stop becoming, like once they stop being sick, then they have energy available for thinking about larger problems. Then they start asking these existential questions about what is life, what is the purpose of life, why are they alive? And then we can bring them towards those conversations, and then they enter the mother and Sri Aurobindo's path, and then from there their evolution begins. And that force that she brings into me to make things better at I Thrive eventually translates into creating something that will take us towards the overall design for humanity itself, which is evolution. So when a force is embodied, it really becomes universal service. It's not about just an individual person. So, how do you know, or how do I also know? I mentioned it once earlier that it's her force and it's not my petty anger or my petty revenge or something like that. It kind of descends from above and it matches something inside of it. So, I don't have to manufacture it. Like, I can't will it into existence. It's very, very precise. It comes with a target, it attacks the target, it destroys it, and it leaves. And I never feel depleted after that. Like I actually, um, I remember like last month when we had to move out of our old premises, and then there were obstacles, and I actually had to, like, her force just descended and it created a massive change. And 1 hour later, after that I was in a studio doing a podcast, and like no one would have known also that I was fueled with so much anger and rage and whatever you may call it. But body never gets depleted. It serves the truth and not some wounded part of my ego. And always something better follows. So it looks like destruction, but I was like never left with that image or that picture of her. But she is like that. So she has never left me with a reality where I was now wailing about the destruction and feeling that the world was over and nothing was left. She's always left me with something that was way more beautiful and way more cleaner and way more true. Okay, so my invitation to whoever is watching this is you could study her and you could read about her and you could worship her all you want. But if you truly want her presence to come and clean up and just help you with your own evolution and growth, is don't be afraid of her, okay? Because from my own experience, the fear of her was about what she will cost you, but she's like, it doesn't even feel like I've ever paid her a price. What she has actually burnt is only what was like only false stuff, okay? Only falsehoods and only like limited aspects of self, relationships that were kept alive beyond their actual truth now. So those things have been burnt and removed, but it never felt like it's cost me anything. Like I've never regretted a single moment when she's come. Embrace her fully, like again, not from a pedestal, not from a distance, not as a not as a concept to be studied, but as a force that you can receive in your body through your breath and in the daily decisions of your life and your work. You might be scary to some if you do that, but it's a true, honest way of living. And surrender to her when fully needed. Okay, so this is another thing I struggled with because I wanted the action without really fully surrendering all my choices. But at some point, I realized that the surrender was a surrender of the asura within me or the undivine or the darker forces, and it was not really a defeat for the psychic being or the soul or the divinity within me. It really has become the ultimate act of keeping my adhara clean and keep making it cleaner and cleaner, for someone who really knows better than me. Like I don't know, I don't know what the actual overall purpose of my building I Thrive is. I only have this limited vision of, let's say, the 1 year, next 1 year, or maybe the next 2 years. But only the mother knows what's going to happen. And the mother and Sri Aurobindo both have left us a map of where humanity needs to evolve. I don't know what piece of the puzzle I'm fitting in, but they know. And they will send whatever is needed at the right time to clean me up for the next step that needs to happen. So that is the approach that I have to even Mahakali's force when she comes. Uh, and that is about it. That is what I wanted to share and talk about. So if
Thank you.
there are any questions or anything, I'm here.
Oh yeah, you've got us all shaking in our boots here. We are scared of Mahakali. Oh my Lord. It's amazing what you've been through, Mugdan. What's really amazing to me is, that I think we've all felt her force in one way or another in our life. We lose a relationship, we lose a job, we get extremely ill. These are oftentimes Mahakali's force, destroying something in our life. But what you've brought to the table here today that is very new to me is how to actually, these are things that we see happening outside ourselves. And of course, the ego immediately jumps in, woe is me, why me, and what have you. So that caution about the ego is important. But what's new to me is to really hear from you how you've been able to work internally and within the body with her energy, because that takes, I know one of the first talks in this series is, be careful. You don't invoke her. She comes when she needs. And I think that caution for folks, and if the body isn't ready, and if the ego isn't ready, right, then you're best to kind of just wait for her to come in whatever way she comes. So it's really amazing to me, the work that you've been doing with her energy. I really haven't heard of anyone else that has taken this on and prepared the body. And what's unique also is that you're using it not only for personal transformation, but in this corporate setting, where you now have not only the possibility, but what you're going to impact not only those around you, but the health of the company overall. And as you've mentioned, with her energy, she destroys and then it takes a while to recover. So the tremendous amount of trust that comes. And I'm sure at first you were like, what's happening? And then the work, the surrender, the ego. So this is just an amazing story. I really, really appreciate the personal sharing and the emphasis that this is not a philosophy. It's something very real that is experienced and needs to be prepared for. And the honesty of some of the risks that you've gone through, and some of the caution for others that are entering into this path. So I really thank you very much. I would just ask a question before we open it up to Vladimir and also Jayashri and a few questions here. This is the first example that I've heard of somebody actively not only using Mahakali's energy within a corporate setting, but on a broader scale, trying to bring the core principles and concepts of integral yoga into the business environment and running the business accordingly. I know I've seen YouTube videos of you doing talks on sincerity with folks in your company, etc. Could you say a little bit more about how you go about, you and the team and the company, in really rooting in the foundation of I Thrive some of the core principles of integral yoga, and what some of the response has been within your team there and employees?
Sure. I think the entire desire to bring integral yoga into the company began when I read the chapter on money from the Mother book in 2024. And I just felt that this orientation to money is something that the sales team should have. Like, it just started with the 5 people in the sales team, and I just wanted them to understand because they were the ones chasing money and asking people for money and like the rejection and all of that. It began with that. So all that we did was we just sat and read one paragraph each day from that chapter. And suddenly the experience of doing this with the team just felt like it was the right thing to do. So it just expanded to the entire company. So we had different teams then, and then I would just spend half an hour each morning with one team, just starting off from chapter 1. So that was Jan 2024. And then people started saying that, oh, I was becoming cultish and I was leading everyone into a cult. And they called me what? A pseudo-scientific, schizophrenic, and all of that. So, so it wasn't easy at all. But that's where the like the word Sagar Manthan that we have in the Puranas, where the ocean started churning, it really began because it triggered people's lower nature aspects, and that's when the entire chaos really got started. So I paused all of that work. It was like, oh, it's not like this is not the right way to go. I should focus on like the capitalist approach of bringing. But every 2 months, I would want to do something with the mother book and something. So eventually, whoever was left later, then we just went through the understanding. So this began last year. I just got I just spoke first about Swabhava and Swadharma and spoke of it from the company perspective that all of us are here to do work for the organization. So it's lesser about their work, Sri Aurobindo and the mother's work, because they don't really have the orientation towards deep spirituality. So whatever I've learned in integral yoga about aligning myself and surrendering to the divine's work, I just make it about the organization. So it's I Thrive's vision. This is your Swabhava, this is what you like doing, you like writing, you like designing, um, and then your Swadharma and how it aligns with the organization's dharma and what the organization needs to do. So it began like that. That actually found a higher reciprocity because it still was talking about the company and numbers and revenue and job descriptions. And then I slowly started bringing in the soul values, mother's 12 soul values, and then how we could apply them from a work perspective. So sincerity at work, what did that look like? Or perseverance at work, like given 2 years of really difficult times with the cash flow, how could we persevere and show up? So that flowed well. And then, of course, we had to move office. So I took a break from that, but we've started again. So when I'm able to relate these higher level philosophical concepts to people's actual day-to-day jobs is where they can identify with, okay, this is a much better way of being. So that's how it's been going. You'll have to ask the team about what they think of it. Like, am I this crazy CEO who makes them sit every Thursday for an hour to listen to these beautiful, look at beautiful slides and listen to these talks? You'll have to take a poll with the team. But I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. I know there's several questions, but Vladimir, would you like to offer any questions or comments? And then Jayashri, who is joining us, that gave a talk last time, will also open to her. Vladimir?
Yes, thank you, Mugdha. It is really a pleasure to listen to such an experience. In my kind of knowing something about this also, yes, I always kind of never saw or never even imagined that Kali or Mahakali, in your case, can act in you or in the Adhar without any other kind of preliminary or other force entering before, like peace, calm, or usually when this force descends, it arrests you. You're totally right. The spine becomes straight. You become like a robot a bit, not yourself, it's some kind of arrested by the force. It is too dense, too strong. And but first time I hear from someone like you that it can act in the environment, not only in you. When it acts in you, I understand. Yes, it kind of makes order, kind of cleans up, cuts all those elements which should go. But when it enters into the environment and relationship, this is first time I hear of this possibility. And can you comment a little bit on this?
So I didn't know that this doesn't happen usually. Like I just thought this is how it is.
It's not usually, it's just what I know, but I never heard of such a possibility. It's a very, very powerful thing.
I just think it's happening because it's supposed to happen, and I've stopped I'm not asking why. I'm just like, oh, this is what is supposed to happen. Because so my entire external environment or my reality is the company, and the company is surrendered to the mother. So it is her instrument that I'm operating as a trustee. So to me, sometimes it feels like it's a temple. And if someone's come and soiled the temple, then I would take the broom and clean whatever part of the temple that's been soiled. And then the energy that's required to clean up, she sends it. So that's how I look at the
So
company.
basically, you
Yeah.
look at the company as an extension of yourself, basically.
I also think that that happens. And it is very deeply linked with my state. So the more I'm willing to show up in the world, the more the company expands. So it's like an energetic entity that's very deeply integrated with me as a unit. And then whoever enters that company's reality gets exposed to the intensity that I carry, which is very uncomfortable for a lot of people, which is why I don't have any friends now. But yes, it is intense. This force is intense, and anyone who enters that reality field gets affected by the intensity. So the company is an external expression of, I think, what the mother is doing through me as an individual unit.
So they
I
also
think too,
feel the presence,
I'm
yes?
sorry, Vladimir.
So they also feel the presence, the pressure, the shift in consciousness, something
They feel the presence, they feel the pressure, but they don't know it's of divine nature. They just feel the discomfort.
Okay. No, that is normal, yes.
Yeah.
When the person is not open to the mother, it will be a discomfort, fear, and so on. Yes. Interesting,
was
very
thinking-
interesting. Thank you. Yeah.
I was sorry to interrupt, Vladimir. I was just thinking too, as you were asking her that question, is that any time that there's a major transformation of oneself in any part of their life, it's going to have replications in our immediate environment. Relationships will change, jobs will change, health will change, etc. So it's normal to me in that kind of capsule, that environment that you're working with within the company, that automatically as transformation happens within you, that's going to ripple out and have an
Yes.
impact on those around you. So great.
But
Well, let's
your
just
description
see.
was sorry. Yeah, your description was that it acts upon the company, which was like through you on the company, which
Yeah.
very, very vivid and powerful, action of the divine.
It really feels, and it happens like that.
Wow.
But it's not me, it's like something else just does it. Like, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We also have Jayashree with us. Jayashree, did you want to make a comment or ask a question and maybe show your video? Thank you.
Hello, Mukta. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. It was your personal experience of the force of Mahakali was very, very interesting to listen to. And the one thing that I could relate with was the intensity, which we've just been discussing, the intensity of the force. Excuse me. And the second aspect is, even though there's this intensity and a cleansing, there is a great love. You don't feel unsafe, right? You don't feel unsafe. You know you're being carried in a loving way, and that there is a purpose behind all of this. The purpose might come later. You see the purpose later, why it was done. But thank you for sharing. That was extremely interesting. And of course, you brought this very valid point to the table that people are fearful of the Mahakali force because of all those reasons which have already been outlined. People are very fearful. And that's why I think when the Mahakali force enters, it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come in very overtly. I think it comes in very gradually and with compassion and calm. That's why Maheshwari, and does its work. And, and that is the love of the mother. So
my team would disagree, Jayashree. It comes with the
no, because they feel the intensity.
I am not often the calmest person when the force descends. I can really terrify someone. I'm really being honest about it. And I can see myself in retrospect later at the end of the day.
Yes.
And it's funny also sometimes because you don't know what like where it came from and how that form and like the face changes. It becomes red and it becomes angry. So for me, it's lesser of just Maheshwari. It's more predominantly Mahakali's force, and that's something Nilesh has often told me also, that if that's how it is, then don't be afraid of it. Like,
Must
but
be different for each person in
yes,
terms of level of intensity and impact, etc. But I think, Jayashree, your point about always in a very loving,
yes,
compassionate, tender way is really important and helpful for people to understand as they're going through these major transformations. So thank you, Jayashree. I'm just
Thank
going to
you.
go through some of the questions, if I could, Mugdhanil, and see. This has the ring of truth for me. I bow to your clarity, passion, and devotion to her. Question from Charles. Do you know what others experience from Kali through you? Are they hurt, damaged, destroyed? Or do you feel that the wrathful action is good for them, a blessing from the mother? So I think you've answered this
yeah.
in part, Mugdha. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, nothing more to add. Most people don't consider it a blessing at all.
Yeah, yeah. Another question, how is Mahakali's energy balanced by the other aspects of the mother in an integral yoga way? So here, I was thinking the same question. You had mentioned several times Maheshwari, because obviously Maheshwari's calm and wisdom helps for preparation in the Mahakali. But what about Mahalakshmi? Do you find that after this Mahakali force transcends and in the aftermath, if you will, that there is some Mahalakshmi harmony and balance and unity that comes in?
So this is precisely the conversation I was having with Nilesh over this week. That the counter to the kind of destruction that she brings, especially from the other person's perspective, is invoking Mahalakshmi and asking her to simultaneously be present so that harmony and love and beauty and nurturing and kindness and love and compassion and all of that coexist. Because it's really easy if one is not, like, if the ego is, like, if it gets amplified by this force, because that is a possibility always.
Absolutely.
It's very easy for this kind of energy to then become a jeering energy, or the kind of energy that will put somebody else down, which is like the complete opposition of a Mahalakshmi's presence, which is all about harmony and making sure there's beauty. So for me, again, Mahalakshmi's energy has always flown in from the beauty perspective, like actual making things look beautiful, and like for things to be colorful and beautiful, and things to be organized the way they're supposed to be organized. But this is something that I'm now actively working in my own system, that even if her force is present as Mahakali, the other force of keeping things soft, I think what Jayashree was referring to, that the loving energy and the compassion being present while Mahakali is doing her work. So the gentleness of the clearing up, that is something I really have to work on now.
Can I add
Otherwise,
something?
it happens like after a 48-hour period, where then now you're re-looking at things and then like bringing more harmony and laughter and joy and all of that back into the reality.
Can I add something? I think the very fact that you're working to harmonize people's health is a Mahalakshmi aspect, sending them home with good health and hope for the
Yeah.
future. And they are thinking of looking at their life from a larger perspective. That is the magnanimity of the Mahalakshmi force coming in. So, and then of course you talked about your balance sheet and the profits. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple other questions here for you, Mugdha. How do you distinguish whether the force entering is vital or spiritual? He says here vital of spiritual. I think you meant vital or spiritual.
So one is this flow of the force. Where is it coming from? If it's coming sideways and horizontally, then it's just a vital impulsion. But if it's coming from the top, so being sensitive and aware of where it's coming from is one. Secondly, what outcome is it directing towards, and what actions and what words am I choosing? So it does take a little bit of the witness poise and conscious awareness to really fully embody this energy and make sure you're doing the right work. And the vital, I mean, even just other beings. So Mahakali is an overmental being of the one of the highest orders, but there are so many other beings and entities that could use a vessel for their own purpose, right? Like these entities that would like to take over and all of that. So that's where the psychic imperience really comes in, like being connected with your psychic and then surrendering your nature to the force only through the vertical referentiality, which is like it's only the mother. Even like the mother is above even Mahakali, right? So even Mahakali wouldn't get access if the mother was not sanctioning it. So it is through that communication pathway that I have trusted it, and so far it's worked out well. I hope it continues.
Thank you. Another question. Some of the actions you mentioned seem to be typical of U.S. corporate management, such as firing the non-performing employees. Could you consider transforming the employee with the Divine Mother's force, which would help the employee evolving?
That is only possible if the employee consents, because even the mother and Sri Aurobindo will not interfere with free will. And that was my experience of 2024, where I initially began reading the mother book with all of them. And I thought just reading it with them would be enough to transform. Like they would feel a call from within and they would want to do more of this. But in fact, it triggered more of their lower nature. And the undivine and the asura actually arose from there because they had not consented to the spiritual work. So it made things worse. And my attachment to the human, the love that I had kept these people. So it's not like I realized someone was non-performing and fired them that month. This was a 2-year process of cleaning up, because my whatever I thought was love and my attachment to them kept them. And I hoped with this rescuer pattern that I had that I can rescue them from their own nature. But it doesn't work if consent isn't there.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure now, in retrospect, as you recruit and hire new employees, that it's really under a whole different vetting process, if you will, to make sure that they're aligned with the corporate swabhava, with your swabhava, etc. So perfect. Well, we are at our close here, but I did want to just read out. There's a couple comments, compliments. Thank you for a beautiful presentation. Thank you for this intimate and sincere account of Mahakali's work from our community. So we just very much appreciate, Mugdha, you bringing to us your personal perspective, your personal journey with the Mahakali, and the advice and guidance that you've given us, and also, you know, the hope that it's possible to work with this Mahakali energy within the corporate environment for transformation, not only for oneself and employees, but for the corporate entity as a whole. So it's very inspiring and encouraging, and we thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mugdha.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So start recording.